I am a bus rider, and
awesome.
I dig it. I'm originally from Chicago, like I was saying.
Sure.
When I first moved out here, I had a buddy from college who he and his wife had been out here for a few years, and I asked him about taking the bus. And this is in 2000. And he said, dude, the only people who take the bus in LA are junkies. and they're if you take the bus, they're just going to hit you up for change.
Wow.
And I like not really understanding junkie logic. I asked, well, but if you're on the bus too, wouldn't that mean they assume you're a junkie as well, so you don't have change either? And he goes, man, junkies don't care.
Well, there must be like a social order of junkies, though.
Sure.
Like, you can tell a Keith Richards or like a...
Right. Well, high-class junkie.
Yeah.
Like someone who gets the good stuff.
Yeah, you can tell like the top ladder from, the bottom rungs. And... But, I think if anything, they think I have weed.
Yeah, well, especially these days. But I guess the point I was getting at, one of my questions regarding the stories on the show, I find most of the interesting things that have happened to me on public transportation in Chicago, LA, New York, they're really... like you just said, anecdotes. It's kind of one of those things. It might take me more time to walk up to the stage to tell the story than to actually tell the story.
Well, often on our shows, like we have a segment at the end of every show after the featured storytellers who tell their stories, which could be, there's no time minimum, but they range from about 5 to 10 minutes. Then I always encourage audience members to come on stage for audience anecdotes where they get up to 5 minutes. Because often when you hear stories, especially because we have just regular people telling stories, we have comedians and actors and people like that doing it as well because it's L.A. and that's who we are. But we also have regular people who are just 9 to 5 working people who've lived in L.A. their whole lives.
Normal people.
Yeah. And
civilians.
I feel like I have to put them in like their own category in this city. But you get the different types of people on the telling the stories, and when you see people telling the stories, they remind you of stories of your own, and it's very natural because we have a very friendly audience. I think a friendly audience sets it up that when people do finally get up to the stage, even if they just kind of walked in this one time to see the show and had no intention of telling a story, let alone preparing a story, let alone ever having told a story before, they get that comfort where it has the feel of like you just got off a bus and you walk in your friend's apartment and there's maybe 5 people there and maybe 2 of them, and you're like, dude, you're not going to believe what happened to me on the train. And then you just go. And then once they do it one time, they're very comfortable.
Yeah. That reminds me of one of my favorite stories that happened to me when I've probably taken the Red Line just at Wilshire in Vermont here.
Okay.
It was probably late at night and very few people down there. And I was just kind of like waiting for the train to show up. And out of my peripheral vision, I saw this kind of like middle-aged, obviously drunk Hispanic man wearing like a nice button-up shirt and had just like untied tie draped around his neck. I was like, what the hell's going on? And he's like kind of, staggering up towards me. And I'm like, I have nothing. I don't have anything. But you're very well dressed. I'm very confused. And in very broken English, he communicated to me that he just needed my help tying his tie. It was like the sweetest thing that ever happened. I was like, oh, sí, entiendo. Sure. I helped him tie his tie and he was just like so grateful. It was very sweet.
That's great.
Yeah, we've been friends ever since.
He'll be the guest next week.
Yeah, he's coming up.
We have a category
they're dating now.
On our storytelling shows. We call it being a good bus ambassador.
Oh, yeah.
Trainer. Yeah, it's just being a good person.
I gave him the double Windsor and, went about my day.
Well, I had this is one of my shorter ones. I actually, one night, I'm riding down the 720 bus down Wilshire years ago. And I have narcolepsy, which is why I take the train and the bus, although now I kind of love it. And so the thing was that I would always pass out on the bus back then. It was a much worse problem. And I slept all the way to Commerce, which is like way the hell out.
I've
way the hell
all the way
out.
there.
Like, I don't know what, half hour more away?
Yeah,
and I don't even know how you get to Commerce because like Wilshire taps out into downtown and this is way past. I must turn off somewhere, right? So anyways, but I'm on my way and I wake up. I'm starting having this dream that I'm in a movie theater and I'm on a date, and
Wow.
and I have a beautiful woman sitting next to me, and I'm eating popcorn, and I slide my hand over to her knee, and all of a sudden I feel this cold metallic feeling, and I open my eyes, and there was my hand being held up in front of me by the Latino man next to me, who apparently I had accidentally groped the knee of in my dream.
Oh, no.
And he winds up slapping me in the face with my own hand.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
While the entire bus busted out into applause and
hilarious.
laughter, and there was not a damn thing I could do about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I told that story once on Grand Theft Audio, my first podcast, and my co-host, I'll just say it, Jerk Belcher. He instead of Jake Belcher, Jerk Belcher. He edited that clip and played that every week at some point in the 2-hour show for years after.
It's such a good thing you didn't get past first base in your dream.
Yeah.
God, you could have been killed.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
I've actually fallen asleep on the bus before and gone to Commerce too. Woken up there.
Oh, it's terrible. Because I woke up. I only went to Commerce one time actually. That time I did wake up. That was earlier. And then, but I realized I was way past where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I got off, and it was near the Pacific, and so did he. But it was like near the Pacific rail car. So we're talking pretty far past Koreatown. And I just remember getting off the bus going, okay, well, I'll just have to turn around. And it was everywhere around me, all Latinos. I speak no Spanish, my bad. And it was just kind of daunting being there. It was about 12:30 in the morning, and everybody's looking at me like, you're in the wrong neighborhood. And then and this guy takes a piss 5 feet away from me. I'm watching some couple screaming at each other in a restaurant across the way. But I woke up in Commerce one time just completely oh my God, wait, where are we in the driver's side Commerce? I'm like, oh no, you gotta let me stay on the bus. It was after midnight again, and there's it looks like gangbangers walking around everywhere, and she's like, sorry, you can't stay on the bus during the break. And so she made me get off, and she says, just go to that donut shop. I'm going to honk. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Just come running out and jump on. I mean, oh my God. I mean, I didn't realize I started eating the donut. I'm too into the donut. All of a sudden, and I just jump up and I'm running. I just barely made it. I almost got left there for another hour.
Well, it's not Fallujah. I mean, it's
I know. It's just
I had a similar experience in Chicago on the 66 line.
Yeah.
Went, past my house and woke up when the bus driver was saying, end of the line, end of the line.
That blows.
And I looked at him and I looked around, and we're in a parking lot that I don't recognize.
Oh, no.
And I said, and where exactly would that be? This is Austin. I said, well, that's
Austin, Texas?
No,
Good Lord.
no. It was end of the 66
Yeah.
line in Chicago. I said, well, what do I do now? I'm definitely going back, but do I stay on the bus? Do I get off and wait for another bus? He just, it was like ignorant white boy,
These days with ride sharing also, you're never really stranded.
Right.
I mean, worst case scenario, if you
now,
find
yeah.
I mean, back in the day, it was brutal.
Oh, yeah.
But, I had a time where I took a Klonopin at my friend's house, at La Brea, and I had to ride the 720 to Vermont. My friend's like, wait till you get home. And I'm like, dude, I'm a champ. And I just took it. Because I had a
Famous
toothache.
last words.
And, I'm a pro. Come on, man. And I'm an artist. And so I fell asleep and woke up in Commerce, and I just kind of looked at it as, an opportunity to see Commerce in East LA from
What
a
time
bus
of day
window,
was this?
which I had never seen at that point.
Did they have the casino out in Commerce at the time, or
No, the bus doesn't go there.
oh?
No, it goes to Commerce Center. Is actually where it goes, which is kind of the entrance to Commerce. Our web show, our video web show that we do now, that's filmed in Boyle Heights. So we film a lot of segments in East LA and Boyle Heights and stuff like that too. But it's always kind of freaky when you just wake up somewhere and you have to and you've never been there and you have to figure your way home. But I just try to be smart about it, and hopefully I don't wake up in a gang, parking lot or something.
Well, my favorite wake up actually was I woke up in a parking lot, but it was an MTA parking lot, the bus storage yard, because I overslept. And I didn't hear to get off at Hollywood and Vine off the 180 or 181 when it came in from Pasadena. And I was so slumped down in my seat that the driver didn't bother to notice that I was there. They didn't go searching the whole bus. And so they just kept driving. They'll just disappear up the hill always. Yeah. Well, I wound up waking up in the total intense heat of sunlight coming down on my face hours later. And I'm like, what? And it's like a totally empty bus. We're parked in a lot. I look out the window surrounded by dozens or hundreds of other buses. It was such a Twilight Zone moment.
It's the secret bus mating ground.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, how do I get up? And so I run to the front, and of course the door's locked. I have no idea how to, get it open.
Engine.
So I'm just banging. Well, no, they didn't have a key left
obviously.
Yeah, but well, did you check under the visor?
Under the visor.
Always. Got to do that.
Always.
But I started banging on the window, and I opened it up finally, and I was just screaming, help, help! And the driver's guy was going to another bus. He's like, what are you doing here? And they let me off the bus, but they wouldn't let me tell me anything about how to get out of there.
Just a little safety tip, if that should ever happen to any of the listeners. Buses are now equipped with these things called a horn.
That's also ignition control.
Is it really?
I spoke with because I do a podcast of Busted, and I had a bus driver on the show recently. He drove for 25 years, and he's a comedian now. And I told that story that you had told. I had said, I have a friend, da-da-da-da. And he goes, that happens all the time.
You'd be surprised.
Wow. Yeah, and I was like, really? Because that's the only time I heard it out of 1,000 stories. In fact, since you've been talking about your narcolepsy sleeping episodes, I'll tell a recent story that involves Carl. Because he's doing an article on Busted for Pasadena Weekly. Yeah. So I came up with the idea because I wanted it to go from a blurb to something bigger. And, I've ridden the bus with Carl before. He's done Busted before. Mm-hmm. And he's approached me about going for my long rides. Because I like to go end to end. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking, if I get him on the bus for an hour, I'll get a nice long article because I'll be taking all his time, Mm-hmm. And because I'm always thinking marketing wise. And so I reach out to him and I'm like, hey, you want to go on the 187 all the way to Azusa from Pasadena? Ooh. He's like, yes. And so I'm like, fish on and fish on. And so we get on the bus and he asks your opening question, and I wasn't smoking weed on the patio before I saw him, so I actually was prepared with the answer. And so he says some question why did you start the show? How did you come up with the idea? And I start answering it, and he's on his way to a show. He has to do red carpet for an award ceremony. So he's wearing a seat. And the buses are big. We're both big guys. I'm 6'4", he's 6'4". And we're sitting opposite each other in the aisle because we can't sit next to each other in one pairing. We're too big. And his phone was broken for some reason. His because it was
the power was off. It's
because it's an iPhone. Imagine an iPhone with a charger problem. So we're using my Galaxy phone to record the interview. So now he says, "So, how did you start the show? Why did you come up with the idea?" And I start answering it into my phone recorder in a nice, loud, clear voice. And Carl promptly falls asleep, and because it's a very comfortable bus, the 187. It's like a Rolls Royce Ghost. It's beautiful. It doesn't shake.
It's like a Clodipit on wheels.
It air conditioned, beautiful, perfect temperatures. So now I'm talking to myself loudly about myself and my show and the buses and the bus ride that we're on, and people are also on the bus that aren't part of this interview, and they're like, yeah, we know there's a Denny's right there, because I'm putting landmarks for him because I know he's sleeping. I'm like, I'll take it from here, and I just start going on and on with all my bullet points I want to get out, and I let him sleep, and then I put landmarks just so I know where we are in the table,
little breadcrumbs.
And so then he might every now and then I'd be like, are you up? And I'd wake him up so he could ask another question, because I figured he'd have some questions that maybe I didn't have in my list of questions that I wanted him to ask.
That's about how I do half my interviews, by the way.
And so I continue this all the way to Azusa, basically. At some point around Arcadia, he begins to realize that this